Okay, as I was saying, Vanessa noted that she understood Mather's turmoil, inner turmoil, but she was a little bit surprised at his starving himself, as a reaction to that. So those are the kinds of reactions that I like to hear. Even though so many of you wrote about Sewell, I appreciate Denise bringing in information outside of the reading that she found out when she had done research in another class at another time. But I am looking for literary criticism. In other words, I want you to demonstrate that you've read the text, that you interacted with the text, that you know there's some, that you're able to take an example from the text. And I'll give you an example, as there were several, as I said, posts about Sewell, but when I got down three or four into like the fourth discussion of Sewell, which was just about the same, Ryan brought up about the wig. And he tried to move the conversation forward by adding that new material and then asking a question, how would you all feel? No one really responded to that, which is a shame. And that might be a matter of timing, but that's more like what you want to do. You want to react if you're going to talk about the same writer, which you would have had to. I mean, there were only 4 writers. You have to pick different topics, and if you're one of the first to post, be generous. Make sure you read the prompt. If it asks you to discuss one, then just discuss one so that your next classmate coming in can maybe bring up a different point. So pick one that you really are interested in, and then when you reply to someone later, you can bring in another point. If you had wanted to bring in another point, you didn't get a chance on your first post. But we want to try to have a discussion. So I do think that Ryan did really well this week in the whole group discussion, because I like how he tried to move the conversation forward. And I did like that Vanessa also brought out something that was important about Sewell, and that was he was really very focused on the ships coming in, the rum and the different goods that were being brought on the ship. There was definitely some material concerns where Sewell was concerned. And so he wasn't just, all religious. I mean, there's clearly spiritual life there, but we see that, gee, they actually cared about stuff too, you know. And the other thing about him, and that several of you brought out, is he did have a different stance on Native Americans and on slavery. He did write one of the first anti-slavery tracts in the nation, which is pretty darn noteworthy. And he makes a public apology about his part in the Salem witch trials. He had written a formal letter. He got his minister to read it, and then that got posted. So, that revealed something about Puritan life, about how very public, not very private at all, but very public, these what am I thinking? These proclamations, these recants, these everybody knows type thing. So that was good. Something about Byrd. William Byrd was in Virginia, right? And he was of the leisure class on a plantation in Virginia, which was very different from the experience of the other 3 that you had read, who were from the New England area, Massachusetts, and etc. And William Byrd was not really like what you would say a spiritual, religious, or holy man. I mean, yes, he said his prayers every day, but he also wasn't in turmoil. Like you saw Cotton Mather in such turmoil over this woman, right? He would stay up all night, starve himself, cry. What do I do? Even though you did see, as noted, like the Jerry Springer moment with the woman that was wooing him, and how there was that passage where they're talking about me. They're always telling lies about me, kind of thing, because I'm in the public eye. But with William Byrd, he didn't suffer like that. He was like, I did wrong again today. God forgive me. Let's move on type thing. So you saw a different attitude. I want to be really clear that he was not kind to his slaves, and he was not, I mean, why did people have slaves? Someone mentioned, why are you going to have them if you don't treat them well? Well, a lot of them weren't treated well. First of all, they're slaves. They don't have lives of their own. But his wife, and if you go on Wikipedia and look it up for a general background information about him, but he's very interesting. I mean, his wife didn't really like the patriarchal attitude that he had, and she tried to sort of buck up against him and have a little bit of power. And so sometimes I think he would beat another slave just to show her she couldn't decide which slave to beat. But he wasn't kind to his slaves at all. He beat a slave for urinating in the bed, and then the next time, and then he beat another servant for trying to cover that up for that boy, and then he made that same boy drink a pint of urine. He says, but he called it piss. You can look that up. And he was very, like a lot of men of his time, unfaithful to his wife, and she would put up with it for the most part, unless he kind of made it public. But he did like to mention, everything that he did on a day-to-day basis, and he was very intellectual, and he did have his library, and he did read Hebrew and Greek and all of that, and he didn't want his wife to go in the library. But he's a different attitude than the others. He doesn't seem as concerned about his spiritual, where he was spiritually, or what was going to happen to him in that sense. And he certainly had pleasures, lots of sex. The flesh and the spirit that you read, the Anne Bradstreet novel, where there's a constant battle between being desirous of these earthly things, our bodies, and looking to the spirit, but not William Byrd. Not William Byrd. He's rogering his wife, and really that's the only kind of intimacy he had. She often complained that he wasn't very, emotional, intellectual intimacy. There just seemed to be this physical intimacy. But so that, I think that provides you an overview. I am still being, in my opinion, generous and lenient on how I'm grading those discussion boards, but now that I've given you feedback in a couple videos, I am going to expect you read the prompt carefully, that you follow the directions. If it says reply to 2 classmates, reply to 2 classmates, that you address one issue at a time, and that you try to have sort of simulate a real discussion. So, and I want everybody to take part in that. So this week coming up that you're working on right now is the deconstructing a sermon. So again, just to repeat, make sure when you go in your group, then you click on deconstructing a sermon, and that you have your discussion in there. Now, I don't mind if there are several threads. I don't mind if there's one thread with just a lot of discussion, but I do want you to have that conversation within the title of the form that I posted. I'll be posting a test review here soon. I hope y'all are doing well. I'm sorry I was a little bit out of touch there for a while, and I hope you understand about that, and we'll talk again soon. Come see me if you have any questions, or email me.